Oh, thank you all for joining today for the Columbus meetup. This is a MuleSoft meetup, and we're going to be discussing about OAuth 2 implementation, primarily some demos at the end, and as well as what MuleSoft is typically used with OAuth, whether to protect MuleSoft APIs or to protect to authenticate MuleSoft via OAuth, or how to use MuleSoft as the OAuth provider. Okay, these are the three different cases possible with MuleSoft. So we'll be looking at the details around that, and we'll look at OAuth in general, and then we'll have a demo at the end by Ralph. First, before we get started, I wanted to quickly check with you guys. If you have interest in presenting in one of the meetups, please contact us now. This meetup is not MuleSoft or any company hosted. It's for the peers to share their ideas, best practices, their solutions, etc., to the wider audience, so that we can exchange ideas and reuse the ideas in your own implementations. So it'll be good to have some presenters from the group, from the audience for the next meetup. We have every month now. So if you have interest and if you have some use case that you want to share with the wider audience, please contact us. We can work with you on the content, and if needed, we can also co-present with you. If this is the first time for you, we can help you out in any possible way. So again, I would stress the importance of sharing ideas, like how we want to share the assets in MuleSoft. We want to share these best practices, the solutions that you developed. If it's not proprietary, right? If it can be shared with the audience, I think it'll make a lot of sense for us to present such use cases in the meetups. That's the first thing I wanted to say before we get started. Okay, my name is Ram Ananthan. Before that, okay, Ralph, can you start the recording?
It's already started.
Oh, perfect. My name is Ram Ananthan. I'm a senior customer success architect with MuleSoft. I'm one of the meetup leaders in Columbus. And we have Ralph. Ralph, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ralph Primorin, one of the meetup leaders here in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm working as a solutions architect for a data governance company. And yep.
Awesome. I see some familiar names here: Sudarshan, Vijay, Kunli, and some others from Columbus area, and a lot of folks from all over, I think, which is very good. Okay, so let me start sharing my screen, and then we'll get started with the presentation. We have this meetup program from 6 to 8:30 Eastern time, but I don't think we will need the entire time. And there is a quiz at the end. So if you can stay back, answer the quiz, there are some prizes for that. You will get some vouchers and stuff like that for winning the quiz. So without further delay, let me start sharing my screen. Are you able to see my screen, Ralph?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And today we are going to talk about how to implement OAuth 2, especially in Mule, and what are the different use cases that we have in Mule for OAuth 2. And first, we'll start with the background. What is OAuth 2? Like, what is the interaction that happens? Who are the actors? What is the interaction that happens in the OAuth implementation? And then we will go into the details, and then we will talk about the use case, and Ralph will demonstrate that for you guys. So that's the agenda. And then finally, we'll have some networking time if you guys want to bring up some ideas for the next meetup, talk about some use cases of yours. If you're interested in presenting, we can use that time to get the details. About the organizers, quickly, we are 4 people in this area hosting this meetup on a monthly basis now. We have Naresh, who couldn't join today for technical reason. So, and we have Yogesh from Salesforce MuleSoft as well. He's on leave. He's not joining today. Myself, Ram Ananthan, and we have Ralph, solution architect from Collibra, who is going to be presenting the demo today. And please use the chat to introduce yourself. Basically know your company, your role in the company, which region are you from, like India or here or where in US, which company, etc. So it'll be good to have that context. So we'll start with what is OAuth. Let me start with a simple example. The definition of OAuth is it's an open standard authorization protocol or a framework that provides applications the ability for secure designated access. So this is the official definition of it, but what does it really mean? So let's look at this example. You can ask Facebook or any app to do something on your behalf. So in this example, you can tell Facebook that it's okay for ESPN to access your Facebook profile or post updates to your timeline without having you to give your access credentials to ESPN. So you're authorizing ESPN to do something on your behalf on your Facebook. So that's that authorization, that authentication and authorization is how OAuth will function. That's exactly how OAuth will implement its authorization protocol. So in this event, ESPN suffers a breach. Your Facebook password remains safe. You're not compromised. Even though you authorized ESPN to do something on your behalf, you're only giving a small permission for a small window of time, saying go do this for me, and that's the only thing ESPN can do for you. It cannot log into your profile. It cannot access your private data, etc. So your Facebook credentials will remain the same, will remain safe, and only that if in case ESPN suffers a breach, a security breach. To understand even a bit more, right? Let's look at this wallet key example. So you are driving somewhere and you are giving your car for parking, valet parking. And you have a valet key that you can give to the driver, to the valet person, right? So the valet keys are only used for opening the driver's side door and start the car. It cannot be used to open the trunk or a glove box or anything else. So what I'm trying to say here is there is an intent. There is an intent for you to tell the valet the person to do something on your behalf, and that's the only thing he can do. He cannot do much beyond that. So you're authorizing him to do, okay, start the car, park it, and come back. That's the only thing he can do. Similarly, OAuth token is like valet key. As a user, you get to tell the consumers what they can use and what they cannot use it from each service provider. Okay, you can also give each consumer a different valet key. So different authorization token or different access you can give, different permissions you can give for different applications. They never have the full key or any of the private data that gives them access to the full key. So that's very simple and clear. This is in simple English to explain what OAuth is. In security frameworks, we have two pieces, right? Authorization and authentication. OAuth does authorization. So authorization is asking permission to do stuff. Authentication is to prove who you are, right? To tell the applications or the service provider who you are, what your identity is, etc. But authorization is telling him that I'm authorized to do certain things, X, Y, Z. OAuth does not pass any authentication data between systems, but instead gets permission to access what it needs. So let's be clear on the difference between the OAuth authorization and authentication. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through the steps that are involved in OAuth interaction. Like we call it OAuth dance. What happens in an interaction typically? So we have three actors. We have a user, we have a consumer, we have a service provider. user is like the car owner, and consumer is like the valet person, and then service provider is the service that you're telling him, okay, he can do certain things, he cannot do certain things. Okay, so let's look at this in detail. This slide is going to be really small for to you read, but I will read the content. First, the user is showing an intent to the consumer saying, hey, MuleSoft, I want you to post something directly into my Twitter account. So you have a MuleSoft application and you have a user. The user is intending to tell MuleSoft to post something on his Twitter account directly. So MuleSoft doesn't have users Twitter credentials, but he has been given an instruction to post something. So MuleSoft will the consumer will ask the service provider, in this case Twitter, hey, I've been asked to post something. Can I get a access token for my session? Okay, so the consumers gets permission from the service provider, and service provider returns back with a client ID and a token and a secret. That's valid only for that particular session. And then consumer will present this the service provider provided token and credential back to the user, saying, okay, I am sending you the credentials that I received. Can you authorize that? Can you approve this? Once the user approves it, he gives permission. Basically, the user is telling that, okay, Twitter, I would like to authorize the request token and credentials that you gave MuleSoft, and that he presented it to me. I'm going to authorize that. I'm approving that. So you can permit him to do what he wanted to do. Okay, you're authorizing that as the next step. And then the service provider will ask a question back saying, okay, just confirms back saying, okay, you'd like to allow MuleSoft to do that. Okay, I will add him to. I will have him access your Twitter account. Okay, and then the user will provide a verbal answer saying yes, that's allowed. And then finally, okay, you can go back to the MuleSoft application and tell them that they have permission to use this request token. So this interaction happens in the background, okay, between user and the service provider, saying, okay, hey, here is the token that you gave to the consumer. I'm approving it. And the service provider confirms back saying, okay, you want him to use it to access your profile, to access your account. And you are saying yes as a user. And then a service provider will say, okay, you can go back and tell the consumer to do what he wanted to do. So finally, the user, once the user approves the credentials, consumer can now post the information on his Twitter account or do anything what he wanted to do, what the intent was, right? So he can do. So this is a typical interaction between the three actors that happens in an OAuth. The consumer accesses the protector resource, and it's all done, right? He does the post of the messages in his Twitter account in this case, and that's the end of the interaction. And then the session is over after that. So the credentials, the request token session, whatever he received is no more valid. It's only valid for the session. So we'll hold any questions towards the end, but if you want to ask the questions, please use the chat. Now let's see how to use MuleSoft with OAuth. What are the different things that you can do in MuleSoft with OAuth, right? It's always confusing. MuleSoft is not a OAuth provider. MuleSoft is a API tool. How to protect MuleSoft APIs, or how to implement, if MuleSoft is accessing a service, how to protect that interaction. Okay, how to authorize MuleSoft to do certain things. So like the one that we saw. So these are the three possible cases with any technology, but let's assume that we are talking about MuleSoft today, right? So what are the three things that you can do with MuleSoft? You can authenticate MuleSoft with third-party tools like using OAuth. In this case, the example that we saw with Twitter was the third party. And you can also set up MuleSoft to be an identity provider. You can use MuleSoft as an identity provider to generate the tokens but I will go into the detail. That's possible. That's only for testing purpose. Okay, it's not recommended for production use. You can MuleSoft as an application. You have professional services in MuleSoft. They have developed an application in MuleSoft which can be used as an identity provider. So if you want to test OAuth in your implementation, if you want to simulate that, the identity provider, you want to see how to protect your APIs, how to protect the access to third-party systems, you can use MuleSoft as an identity provider in your case. But when you actually implement that in production, you have to go with the proper service provider. MuleSoft is not recommended to be an identity provider in production because it cannot scale. It doesn't have all the features of the identity provider. It's just a sample application that we have come up with. The third use case that you can do with MuleSoft is protect the MuleSoft APIs. You develop APIs in MuleSoft. You can protect those APIs with OAuth authentication using the pre-built out-of-the-box policies or custom policy. So first, authenticate MuleSoft with third-party systems. We have Mule connectors that make use of OAuth security protocol to manage user identities. Okay, you can use the authentication that you configure in a connector when your Mule app is sending requests to a service that requires authentication. Example of that will be a GitHub OAuth2 server, or the example that we just walked through, right, at Twitter. So these are some of the common examples that you can immediately think of when you have this particular case, how to authenticate MuleSoft with third-party systems. So in this case, MuleSoft is the consumer or the client, and you have a user sitting on top of the client, giving the intent to MuleSoft to do certain things. How to authenticate MuleSoft with third-party systems? What are the things that are available in Mule? We have some templates, some examples, and some connectors. If you are familiar with the product, you would have seen already, or you can go and check our public exchange. There are some templates available for you to use readily for this particular use case, how to authenticate MuleSoft with third-party systems. I'm not going to read this. We'll share the slides and the recording as well, so you can play with the tool at your leisure. Next use case that we have is OAuth2 provider module. So as I mentioned, MuleSoft has developed an application using Mule to be a OAuth2 provider. With this, the application will be able to authenticate. The Mule application will be able to authenticate previously registered clients. It can grant tokens, validate them, register and delete the clients. It can do all that at a smaller scale. It's not exactly, it cannot replace a service provider, ideal service provider in this case. But you can certainly use this application to test out OAuth in your implementation, or to do a POC, or even your lower environments if you want to try out something. This is a very useful application, very useful tool. Since the OAuth dance is done through HTTP, OAuth2 provider makes use of the Mule HTTP connector. So the Mule application must also have an HTTP listener configuration to be used for the provider. So this is what this is an implementation detail, but we don't need to worry too much about it. It's a pre-packaged Mule application that you will receive. You will configure it, and you will use it to register your clients, delete the clients, generate tokens, validate them, etc. And then finally, Mule OAuth2 access token enforcement using the policy. So we have some out-of-the-box policy to enforce the OAuth2 access security. We can use that out of the policy to enforce use of an OAuth2 access token issued through a Mule OAuth provider. The configuration needed are scopes and access token validation endpoint URL. So these are the things that you would provide when you actually implement OAuth2. So don't worry about the details. Again, the intent is not to teach you OAuth. This is what is possible in Mule. That's the part we're going to focus on today. And what out-of-the-box policies we have? We have policies for open access method, Ping Federate, OpenID Access, OpenID Connect. To use one of these policies, set up client management for the corresponding service provider, okay, and then use it. So the policy, the documentation that comes with the MuleSoft product has no clear instructions on how to set it up. And if you want to try these policies, any of these policies, and if you have any questions, or we have help articles available as well in help.mulesoft.com. And also you can reach out to any of us for any assistance that you need. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ralph for the demo, and we'll please use chat to ask your questions. If we cannot answer anything today, but we will certainly will get back to you, as soon as possible. Ralph, should I click next, or you want to take control?
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing, and you can take control.
Okay, sure. Let me take over. Can you see my screen now?
It's not yet shared, I think.
About now?
Not yet. We can see you, but not the screen. Do you have a dual monitor or something? Is it going to the different screen, or?
I click the share screen already. Can you see now, or?
No, we still see you. Are you getting any error when you share your screen?
No, I'm not. About now?
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm only able to share my Chrome.
Oh.
Are you able to see the demo?
We see your screen. Can you share your application is not here. We see your screen though, which is having the Zoom window. So it's not sharing anything other than Chrome?
Yeah, it's not sharing.
Let me ask. Sorry, guys. Just give us a couple minutes. I think it should be resolved.
Anyhow, maybe I can discuss the slide. I actually have a slide on the demo.
Yeah, please go through that, and I will figure this out in the meantime.
Yeah, my intent of the demo was I was actually not using the template that Ram mentioned earlier. That is actually the better way to implement the authentication or on the application. But I did it more on the lower level, just to show you the what is an example of the authorization server or that third party authorization server. So I was actually planning to show you the Keycloak as a authorization server, and I will show you how to at least register a client, get the credentials, show you how to generate the access token scope, expiration, and the refresh token. So one question on the chat was, does the access token expire? So yes, the access token expire depending on your configuration, and then you can use the refresh token to generate another access token, and then using that access token, whether how you register the client, you will register you will add a scope to the client. So this scope helps you to manage which what kind of coverage or permissions your client will have. And here in the bottom, in this an example of the OAuth DAS is the access protected resource with access token. So in this in this line here, it shows that depending on that scope, the access token will be used to access that resource. And then after that, you will use that access token as a header on your API call. And I'm pretty sure that many of you are familiar with the basic authentication. So instead of using the basic on the header, you use the bearer as a keyword, and then you add the access token on the header of every API calls. So here's just a diagram showing the IDP. So I use the Keycloak as the IDP or identity provider, and then I was calling the token and the cert. And then in the Keycloak, I forgot to mention about Realm. So I created a demo Realm, and then registered the client on that. This is actually helpful to understand the concept of OAuth, and you might probably just try the Keycloak. This is a open source identity provider, and it's also supported by MuleSoft. You can use that OAuth provider module to integrate with the Keycloak. So this one I'm talking right now is a little bit deeper. So, but I created 3 applications here. One is the Keycloak OAuth, another is the key application, and the other is the resource server. So instead of having 2 applications talking to the IDP server, I used only one. It provides 2 interface. One is to generate token, another is to validate token. And then here the resource server. This could be the resource server that you want to protect.
Sorry to interrupt, Ralph. We are not able to see your screen. We are only seeing the meeting window. So
Okay.
if you want to, you're not showing the slides.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's not working. I tried.
So you want me to share the slides and then you can talk about it?
Oh yeah, sure. Yep. Yep. If you can share the slide. So yeah, I apologize to everyone. My machine doesn't work. I'm using a new machine. Yeah, I'll repeat again quickly. So my intent was to show you the another way of integrating to the in the identity provider. So I didn't use a template here. So I just want to show you the concept of the OAuth, like getting the client credentials for the authorization server or identity provider, and then the authorization server will authenticate the client, and then it will return the access token, scope, expiry, and the refresh token. So normally we use the access token and the refresh token. The refresh token is used to get another access token after the access token expire, and then the scope shows the different scope of how you will access the protected resource. So a protected resource, an example is the ESPN.com or whatever the operations within the ESPN. You will protect that depending on the scope that the client has. And then once you have that, you will use the access token as a header on the API call. So many of you are familiar with the basic authentication. So instead of using the basic as a keyword on the header, that you use that token as a bearer token, and then you will be able to access the protected resource depending on the scope of that client. So again, I apologize. I won't be able to show the demo. You're mute, Miram.
Do you want to do the quiz in the meantime while you figure this out? Because
yeah, we can do the quiz. Yep.
Okay, there is a question. If you want to answer, is that token validation happening locally or is it going against the auth server?
Is the token validation happening locally or is it going? Yeah, it's going against the auth server. I forgot to mention the JWT. Sorry, if I'm able to show the code, it's going to be against the auth server. So the auth server, actually the auth server will provide the JWT, and then some part of that JSON web token or JWT will be used to validate the access token.
So quick check. So when you say share screen, you get the option to share your entire application, or like you get three options, right? Share your
entire screen, application window, and Chrome tab.
And you're using Mac or Windows?
Yeah, I'm using Mac.
Okay.
This is the new one. It doesn't. Yeah, I didn't use the old one, but this new one doesn't work.
Do you have any other machine where you can access the demo from?
No, it's only here in the new machine.
Okay, if you look at the chat, there is one more question for you, Ralph. So the one you demonstrated seems to be for client credentials, grant type. Is a different way to set up for other grant types?
Other way for grant types? Yeah. Right now, I'm using the password grant type. I instead of using the authorization code or please, I use the password as grant type. But you have an option. I mean the Kicklock supports different grant types. Just so happen I did the simplest way.
Yeah, and I mean the presentation was going to be a demo, but unfortunately Ralph is having some technical difficulties in sharing his screen. I'm not sure if you guys can wait. We can try a few things to make sure if it works or not.
No, I tried it. It doesn't work. I don't know for some reason.
Okay.
Maybe they can. We can do the quiz now.
Or I'm just thinking, can we set up another Zoom with just you and I so that you can use that Zoom to present your screen and I can use.
Yeah. That will also work.
Let's do that. If you can send me a Zoom, then I will join that and show it here. Yeah, the official platform is this. This is what we are supposed to use for meetups, and it's a new platform. That's why I think all these difficulties. It's supposed to. We used to have a different platform, a few months, like 2-3 months ago. So they asked us to start using this platform for the meetups going forward. We cannot use any other Zooms or Google Meet, unfortunately.
I ping you the link.
Where is it?
In the direct message. On the chat here in.
Oh, in this chat here.
Yeah.
I don't see your chat.
Okay. Direct message.
Oh, from Naresh, that's you only. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, here admit. Yeah, I mean, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, but are you able to see your own screen through me?
No. I'm sharing now, Ken, bro.
Okay, share your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Let's ask the. I see. What are you sharing? What application are you sharing?
Chrome.
Yeah, can you share your studio to see if you're able to see that?
No. Can you see my screen from your Zoom?
I can see the Chrome. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let me make sure that everybody can see this as well.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Let me check with the. Oh.
Yeah, maybe can you share your Zoom? Ram,
What is it?
I'm able to see your screen. Yeah, just maybe you can. Yep, that one. That's my screen.
Yeah, you are able to see it from the meetup window, or
Yeah, from the meetup window. Yeah,
okay.
maybe you
Can
can.
you chat with the people and see if they can see it? Because I have to switch back
Yeah,
and forth.
yeah. Someone thumbs up. So Erwin thumbs up. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if we can maximize this. Unfortunately, I cannot maximize this. Let's go with what we have.
Okay, sure. Yep.
Is it the maximum screen that you can show on your side?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay. So right now I'm using the Kicklock. So this is a open source identity provider. You can just download it. So I'm running it locally right now. So one thing here, it's I was able to add Realm and have the demo here, and then here in the, oh, sorry. So Kicklock, you can use it for combination of OpenID. So it supports OpenID Connect and the OAuth. And then here I added the client, so I still use the demo vanilla. And then here are the settings. So I did the access type confidential, and then the client protocol is OpenID Connect. So just want to quickly show you this one, and then I have added the client scope. One is the create resource, and the other is the query resource. So the question earlier was about the grant type. So on the API calls, so before I did the coding, I make sure that the API calls are right in the from the Postman. So here from the Postman, I specify the grant type as password, and then I use my username, the username password of my client. So test user and test is the client. So I register the user. So I have here the credentials. So user, I created test user, and then I assign it. This is already assigned to this client Manila. And then I copy the client secret, so you can generate the client ID and client secret here as a username, as a password for the. So basically, this token here still requires the user and password, but I use the vanilla or the client name, and then the client secret as a password. And then on the body, I have this credential. So grant type, and then I don't need the request token. So when I click send here, it will generate the access token, expiration, request token, and the scope. And then another call here is I need to get the JWT, or they call it claims. So this will be, you will be using this to validate the access token. So in my example, I use the N and E. E is the exponential, N is the modulus. But this could also end up using this. I mean, this combination can generate this X5C, which can be used for. In my example, this will represent the certificate. And then here in the Mule, I have the client application, Kicklock, OAuth and the resource server. Quickly showing you the diagram here. I have the IDP, which is the represented by Keycloak, and then I call this token and cert. And then I have three application client. One is the client app, Keycloak OAuth, and the resource server. So the Keycloak OAuth has the interface generate token and the validate token. And then once the client app gets the access token, it will use that as a header, as a bearer token to call the resource server. So let me quickly show that. So I have the generate token here implemented in Mule. So I have the get token, which I showed earlier on the Postman, and then the validate token scope. So I did several validation here. This is not the best practice. If you're as what Ram showed earlier, there are available templates on the exchange. You can use that as a starting point. But I'm showing you right now more the deeper low level and then here in the resource server, I have here one flow, create resource, another is query, and then the last one is delete. As you can see here, I call the post or validate token. So these API calls here are actually validating the token and calls the Keycloak validate token scope. So if I'm going to run this, I just want to show you that I have here several scopes here. Query resource, create resource, query resource, and delete resource. So my user right now doesn't have access to the delete resource. So if I run this, so run config, I need to run all the application. So I'm missing scheduler. This should run. This should be triggered immediately after the reboot. So here it actually run. So just showing you that the token is valid, scope valid, and then I end up getting scope invalid because I'm trying to access the delete resource here. Let me quickly show you the delete resource. This one. And then if I look on the Keycloak, I don't have my client doesn't have the delete resource here assigned. So yeah, that is only my intention. Just want to show you the low level aspect of the OAuth. You can I recommend to you to use the OAuth provider module, which is more efficient. You don't need to deal with this low level details. Yep, that's it, Ram.
Okay. So you want to show them the quiz?
Yeah, they could. The quiz is actually on the
Menti URL. Right?
Menti.com. Let me.
Can you, in the chat, if you can give them the instructions, I think it will be helpful. Let me stop sharing and you can show your Chrome. You're able to show your Chrome, right? Can you show and log into Menti.com?
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Can you open up? This is the meeting screen. Open some other browser window.
Okay.
Somebody says it cannot be found.
No, sorry. The code is 8576. This is the code.
8576888.
Yep. Let me. I'm going to share my screen to you, Ram. To Zoom. Can you please share your screen because it pop-ups on the different window.
So what are you showing? We can see your question 1 out of 5.
I can see it. Okay.
Oh, this is on Zoom. Sorry.
Yeah. So,
Okay. We are seeing your studio. Please check the chat also if they have any questions, okay? Because I'm not showing that window here.
so True Plus authorization is about verifying the identity of a user or process. So the correct answer is false. 7 got the answer.
Authorization is all about what you can do or we cannot do, not the checking the user itself.
Yep.
Why do we have two Sudarshan? Two different people or?
Yeah, Sudarshan. Yeah, there are two Sudarshan. So our leading right now is JB. Second is Erwin. Third is Nabin. So we go to the second question.
It's taking time.
Yeah. Anyway, so 7 got the answer. So how the user access to resource defining auth? So we're using scopes for that one. So right now we flip. So number 1 now is Erwin, then TT, and then Sridhar. Yeah, for question, does the access token expire? Okay, all answered true. Then last question, we only have 5 questions. The block allows a mule application to become configured as an authentication manager in an OAuth dance. So 11 got the answer. And then let's see who's the winner. So yeah, our top three is Erwin, GT, and Sridhar. Congratulations to you guys.
Yeah, note down their email addresses.
Yeah, okay. Can you please ping your email addresses? Erwin, TT, and Sridhar. Thank you.
So Ralph, did you leave the Zoom?
Oh yeah. I
Okay, the question from Sridhar is, can you explain the three modes again, if possible? I'm a bit confused on that. Okay. It's not three modes, but three possible ways that, no, not possible ways. Let me explain that. The three use cases that you can solve with OAuth, you can implement OAuth in MuleSoft. One is, let's assume that you're building APIs in MuleSoft. Okay. You want to protect those APIs with OAuth. That is one way. Second one is, you are asking MuleSoft to do something with the third-party system. So you're authorizing MuleSoft now. You are telling, okay, MuleSoft is the consumer here, is the client, and you are telling MuleSoft to do something on your behalf, like posting on Facebook or going into a Twitter account or something like that. So that's the second use case. The third use case is, the service provider itself can be MuleSoft. So MuleSoft as a Mule application can be used as a service provider, which can be used to generate the tokens, refresh the tokens, validate the tokens, etc. Create the user credentials and all. So this is the third use case. The third use case is not meant for production use. It's only used for the low-level POCs or something like that. So that's the three use cases that I talked about. Exactly right. Auth, MuleSoft with third-party systems, is it like logging into Mule using Okta? Yeah, you can think of that's a valid example. But you're talking about SAML. Let's assume that MuleSoft is a client here, and you're telling MuleSoft you wrote an API to do something on your behalf. Okay, you're posting something in LinkedIn, or you're writing an application to do something on your behalf to do on your Twitter account or a Facebook account, right? So that's the easiest example I can think of how to when we talk about a third-party systems, or GitHub Auth server, right? So you're trying to interact with the GitHub Auth server through Mule. You as a user, you're authorizing Mule to do something on your behalf. The typical use cases that you would encounter with Mule will be to protect your Mule APIs with OAuth. So using the policies, out-of-the-box policies. So that's very common. And you will also use Mule as a provider, service provider, if you're testing something or doing a proof of concept before you actually sign up with a third-party service provider. So that's possible too. Authorizing Mule Mule application to do something on your behalf depends on the use case, depending on what the business use case for that API is. So let me give you my email address. If you have further questions, right, we can discuss there. Okay, what else? Exactly right. That's right, Sridhar. Do you combine client ID policy on an API along with OAuth or just OAuth? You mean client ID secret as well as OAuth? I think you will have one of the other. It depends on the type of the consumers. You would either go with client ID secret and or OAuth. I have not seen where you have both these because they are similar policies or not for the similar purpose. Do you find that implementing OAuth is worth the extra complexity versus basic auth? So if you want protection, if you're talking about external users to your applications, the standard is OAuth. So it purely defined by your security requirements, right? How strict you are in terms of securing your assets and API calls and your applications. So if you're exposing your applications to outside world, and the typical use case, typical policy is to enable the OAuth security on that. So it is a very common practice to implement OAuth. It's not complex once you understand the. It's not like user ID password, obviously, and it has some steps. But it's when you say is it worth it? It depends on the use case. It depends on your requirements, SLAs. What your security team is requiring you to do. And also the biggest difference is the scope and also the session, right? So user ID passwords can be compromised, and we have seen that many times. With OAuth, you get the additional protection. That's why it's more secure than the basic auth. Can you share the code and steps to configure Keycloak? Vikas is asking if you can share the Keycloak steps, configuration steps.
Sure. Yep.
Get his email address and you can share it.
Yeah, maybe you can just ping me your email address. I'll share you.
So Ralph is here, Naresh. He's using a different ID, so don't get confused. Don't look for Ralph. Send it to, you can directly message Naresh, or you can put it here in the general window, your email address, so that we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can message now. I'm actually okay. Thank you.
That's right, Joe. It's mainly the main use case for OAuth is to expose something to external world, external users. If it's an internal user, if it's internal API to API, then the most common way is to expose the client ID secret policies. It's a little secured than your user ID password, but client ID secret. And out of the box policy for that, in Mule. If OAuth server and provider is in the same application where we define a system API, how do we pass the token from experience to process to system layers? If OAuth server and provider is in the same application. I'm not following your question. What do you mean by server and provider is in the same application? Your provider is going to be a standalone IDP, right? Identity provider, OAuth provider. It won't be in the same application. How do we pass? So Ralph, can you check Erwin's question?
No, right now I that was only an example. I didn't use the API-led connectivity. Normally, it will be a separate API, and it should be depending on your design, it should be come across different, or just it will be only available at the experience layer. Because depending on the design decision that you will make with the security team, whether you will implement all OAuth in all your APIs or just on the experience layer.
And Naveen is asking you to share the Keycloak steps as well. So he has given his email address.
Okay.
Did I cover all the questions? Sorry about the technical challenges we had today, and hopefully we won't have it ever going forward. Does OpenID Connect framework work when using Azure AD as identity provider? I am not sure about the Azure AD features. Do you know, Ralph?
It's but Azure is. Are you talking about Active Directory?
Yeah, Azure Active Directory.
Yeah, you mentioned, you showed the one method earlier, Ram, right? With OpenID. Let me see.
Yeah, but does it support with the Azure ID? Does it work with Azure ID?
Yeah, it will work. You will use the Azure Active Directory to authenticate the user, because the credential is stored in the Active Directory.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the what I like with the authentication or the security, there will be a lot of interaction. In my experience, most of my applications are being done with the basic authentication, and sometimes most of my customers as well, they have challenges of understanding OAuth. I think for you guys, it will make sense to you to, like what Ram started with the OAuth dance, and then at least try with those modules available in the exchange. You don't need to dig deeper the concept. You just need to understand like why it expired. You need to generate again another token, but those will be handled internally or implicitly. Another
WAUth 1. There is another question on WAUth 1.0.
Yeah.
Do you know how to generate WAUth 1.0 signature in a MuleSoft application?
Yeah, actually right now we show the OAuth 2.0, not OAuth 1.0. I would say I don't know right now, but if I see the concept, I would normally do a quick POC. I'll start with the Postman, but I don't know. I heard that OAuth will support I mean, the concept is it does redirection and callbacks, and yeah, I don't think it's possible because you need to bypass those logins from the API perspective.
Okay. So have you noted down all the email addresses? The three winners?
Right, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you. But I want to use this time to find out if anyone is interested in presenting in the next meetup, either in March or April. If you have a use case you want to share, if you are a product feature that you want to explore and share with the audience, this is a wonderful platform. So please contact us, or you can even mention now that if you're interested, we can work with you on the content as well as in the preparation. I think you should talk to your customer success about the security. Are you talking about the security patch? Yeah, please talk to your customer success manager about that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I really want some other uh, company or some one of you to present in the next meetup. Let me know if anyone is interested. As I said, no, we'll work with you on the content and the preparation and all. So it'll be a good experience as well. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I'm going to stop recording and